She continues, how are people being led to caste going to become victims of Scientology? I don't think that that claim makes any sense. So there are many ways, of course, in which Scientology lures people in to become their victims, and of course victimizes people who are not Scientologists at all. So Scientology is a gargantuan victimizer organization, and it has victims. It's possible in all of this that caste is Scientology's victim. If caste aligned itself for public relations purposes with Scientology or its little front groups, Youth for Human Rights International, etc., then caste is a victim of Scientology. If I had called up caste and been debriefed by a caste staff member and given them all of my information and been led to believe that this thing had my best interests in mind and had no relationship with Scientology but would be working on my side, then they're victimizing me. And that's the case, actually, because I was being lured in. I was lured in with the original communication on the internet, inviting people, urging people in my situation to contact Nancy, to be put in touch with an organization that was helping people get out of Scientology. Or if they got out of Scientology, then it was helping them with everything that they needed, including attorneys. To find out that this was fraught with danger was pretty scary, and that made me a victim, and Nancy's communication here makes me a victim. Show me the article where the head of caste make any Scientology connection. I never said that the head of caste makes any Scientology connection, but there is a Scientology connection with caste and with the head of caste. That's very clear, and the extent of it is what is needed to be known, and that can only be known through the head of caste, who must come clean about this organization. Scientology will never come clean because it is a dishonest organization. Whether or not caste is a completely dishonest organization remains to be seen. Scientology is completely dishonest. Nancy says, they, speaking of caste, have been duped, and by one minor children's organization so far. It's not clear that they have been duped. It's not clear that they're merely irresponsible. This really could be willful, and they could be part of a fraud and a manipulation of the real victims here, for sure, the ex-Scientology victims, and even, as the evidence begins to show, maybe even the other real victims of human trafficking. And by one minor children's organization so far, Youth for Human Rights is not a minor children's organization. It is a tentacle of the Scientology octopus. It is inseparable from Scientology. It serves David Miscavige's purposes. Yes, it uses children, but it has adults using children on the direction of David Miscavige. Youth for Human Rights is far from one minor children's organization. I must also say about Youth for Human Rights that it is a beneficiary in the contract that Scientology has with me. Virtually all Scientologists are beneficiaries in this contract and beneficiaries in the unlawful actions which have been taken to enforce that contract against me. Youth for Human Rights is a beneficiary. Does it make any sense that caste is going to look at my claim, which is against all of the beneficiaries of this unlawful contract, one of whom is their coalition member, and others of whom are those OSA personnel and members of Youth for Human Rights, that the execs from CAST have been meeting with. Freedom Magazine is a beneficiary in the cult's contract against me and the efforts to enforce it. So I am not in quite the same position as every Sea Org member who exits the Sea Org and might show up with CAST. I have an intimate contractual relationship with, as I say, virtually every Scientologist and every Scientology organization or affiliated entity, which certainly includes Youth for Human Rights, Freedom Magazine, and all the other groups, Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and even, as we'll see, Diane Watson, the congresswoman from the 33rd District in California. She is a beneficiary in the contract that Scientology has with me in the efforts to enforce it. So is Tom Cruise.